Hello and welcome to Tartan Touchdown in Conversation With, our series of podcasts sharing the stories of people within the game that we love, American football, all over the world. After a short hiatus during the NFL season, we are back and today we have a very special guest lined up. Before we get to them though, I am joined in the chair today with Gav. Gav, it's been a while since we've done a conversation together. How are you?
It's very good. Yeah, good to be back and glad to get back to interviewing. What better guest to talk international American football than the man you're about to introduce?
For those that are listening and watching, make sure you are subscribing to us on YouTube and all podcast platforms to get our new podcasts the minute they drop, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok for all the latest content. For this episode, we are joined by a man that has played a very significant and crucial role in getting flag football to the Olympics. We are very honoured and delighted that he's joined us for a conversation today. It's the President of IFAF, Mr. Pierre Trochet. Welcome, Pierre. How are you?
Hey guys, nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me. Doing very well. Thank you very much.
Excellent. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. So hopefully we have some good chat that made it worth it for you.
We should always take a little bit of time to chit chat, talk shop. I enjoy that. So we're good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So normally, Pierre, we start these stories by going back in time. However, before we do that, for those that may not know, can you explain what IFAF is and what your role as the president is within the organisation?
Well, the simple way of putting it, IFAF is the global governing body of American football. Talking about flag and tackle, obviously, we together with 74 national governing body in France and Scotland, and obviously in the UK with BAFA or in Ireland and so on. We govern the sports, meaning that we organize the World Championship, the Continental Championship, obviously being in the first row of the Olympic pathway, working with the NFL for this, organizing many competitions. So you can see us as the FIFA of American football, obviously with a much younger history and growing and trying to make it count for a huge touchdown in the next 2 years. And obviously a lot of work has been done over the last 6, but this is still the beginning. We're still on the 31st phase of all of this.
And in terms of yourself as the president of IFAF, what's your role within all that?
Well, the president of an international governing body, there's a lot of the public relationship. That's why we are here today, and trying to there's an educated sheet. There's trying to understand what flag is and how fast we go and our ambition and so on. There's working with the board of IFAF in understanding the rules and policy of the organization. That's I would say the more invisible job, because it's how we're gonna set up the organization for the future. But all in all, it's a job of service. It's a job of service for the athletes, for our incredible community of athletes worldwide, and trying to support the game the best we can, and trying to make sure that we keep growing as fast as we started the last few years on those first term with IFAF.
Yeah. So if we do rewind slightly back and we kind of talk about yourself as a person, what was your first introduction to this sport of American football?
Oh, wow. Okay, so you really go back in time.
Yes.
I mean, this is a story I've told many times, but this is just the truth. This is exactly what happened. I come from a Châteauroux hometown in France. This is where I come from, born and raised. Small town in France, which was a NATO base after World War II. And obviously, you guys know the history, you know the link between the American army, and it started in the early 20th century, but going on in France, in that city that was based just around the NATO base, basically. And that town grew up with that feeling of the 50s and 60s American way of life. The first burger, Joe from Maine, was actually the restaurant in Châteauroux, was the first one in Europe. Funny side story. But back in the day, Châteauroux was the only city that has a functioning airport that could land the tanker or big flying aircraft from the US to actually land in Europe. And so the entire city grew up like this, and then family relationship. I actually discovered the game very early. My father was a fan. I remember him, even though he never played, ever, even though he put the shoulder pads once for roster purpose. But I remember him, having a how do you call it, those belts from Kansas City and those rings from high school and stuff like this. So I just grew up in this. And my first love was basketball. I started to play basketball when I was a kid. And I remember 1992, which was the Olympics. And you guys can recall that, probably Barcelona. And I was just impressed by Jordan and Bird and all those guys taking the floor with the basketball. And I was so impressed. And my father just said, hey, if you play football, by the time you grew up, you guys might be at the Olympics. And so I started to play ball. Obviously, that time as a player for me is past for a while. I was a tackle football player, lucky enough to play in France, in Austria, moving all over Europe, moving all over the world with this, met amazing people. That was my first contact with football from my childhood, all from that small city to IFAF, and being obviously the main interface between the IOC, with the NFC, the NFL, and all of those Olympic business.
Yeah, we were having a wee chat just before we came online, and you did say that you are a Green Bay Packers fan. How did that come about? Why the Packers?
Well, that's the moment. I'm going to be honest with everybody watching. That's the moment that I said that we would go offline right now. No, we had Green Bay. No secret. We tell everything exactly. We go straight to the point. Oh, yeah, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan because actually my first live Super Bowl was Green Bay Denver and John Elway and Brett Favre and so on. And I've obviously never been yet to Lambeau Field. Hopefully I can do that soon. But attachment to the team, and I just discovered Antonio Freeman, Reggie White, Brett Favre, John Elway, Terrell Davis, you name it. And then, this is just done as a team that I like. And by the fact that it's the only team that is actually owned by the fan, I enjoy that as well.
I think that's, I guess, a common thing for both of us, Pierre. So I think the year prior, Packers Patriots was the first Super Bowl that I saw. So I think that's the one that Desmond Howard took over, and especially
1980. I'm from 1986, so the first Super Bowl is probably too late for me. So I would not refer to that one, but I would stick to 1997.
Excellent. So obviously you kind of mentioned as yourself, Pierre, that you played the sport. Can you talk us through your experience, your memories of playing the game?
Well, it was obviously fantastic time. I was very lucky. I played tackle football. I was an offensive lineman, so no touchdown pass, no fancy touchdown, and so on. And as an offensive lineman, there's not even a little fumble recovery every now and then, obviously. so I grew up like this, even though I started as a tight end because I came from basketball. So I had decent end and decent move for 195 big guys. But yeah, moving to the offensive line, and I could, I played in, as I said, mostly in Europe. I could play European Championship. I could play whatever international we had with the clubs, with the national team. So I'm a very fancy that time of my life as a player, the life of the locker room, obviously the togetherness to win championship. I was also very lucky to have a few rings, national and international. So it's also really cool. But first of all, I met awesome people. Football paid for my study because I could travel and I could go to the university. I had the time to go to the university and so on. So that's what I mean by paying. And then I met fantastic leaders. I met fantastic coach from Europe, but also from the US, from Canada, from all over the world. Great experience, great people, great fan. And so I was lucky to be in that environment, and somehow the transition had now been in the administration of the sports is of course of luck as well, based on the experience I had. So I first started to work in soccer, in pro soccer, Champions League pro soccer, and then moving back to the French Federation, being able to finish my master thesis on online education, working for the regional league, working for the French Federation. And now IFAF since December 2021.
Yeah. So how did your kind of transition from playing the sport into the executive side of the sport come about?
I mean, first of all, when I was still a student, finishing my MBA, and therefore coming with some study and concept, which was called Global American Football Development in Europe, based on online education. It was the beginning of the MOOC and Spoke. If you guys heard about that before, we had university in the US, like Stanford and so on, starting to put some class online. It was before COVID, it was before Zoom, it was before Google Meet, it was a lot of that. And putting a emphasis on that, and how do you transfer sports knowledge to an accessible, obviously continental, worldwide accessible content, and how does that pathway works? And so far, and so when I built that process, some content, I work with some great coaches for our European fan. We can, remember Larry Legault or Shuan Fatah or some guys that are already still in the play. And we create some online academy, some content, and therefore it was very interesting with the French Federation to move on that to a more national level on how do you build a system with 800 coaches looking for certification every year, with obviously a very humble size federation like the IFAF was back in the days, and so that's how we move on. Then with success with the French Federation. We move on in 2018 to be the European champions, cutting DVD deal, bringing some sponsors awareness, trying to rebuild a healthy organization after the past of IFAF, but also the French Federation that we have to own and obviously stay far away. And at the time of moving for new energy, new vision of IFAF and opportunities, and European colleague, starting to have discussion and ask me if this is something I would consider as the next step. I was like, sounds like an interesting challenge. let me guess, we don't have a lot to work with. We have all the chance in the world to fail. Well, that sounds interesting. Let's try to build something out of that. And now, yes, 6 years later, we are fully recognized by the IOC. We are a stable, unified organization. We grow revenue. We grow a stable budget every year. We have some staff. We are in Olympic sports in 28. We will start, and maybe looking for the future after what? For sure, looking after 28 and beyond. Obviously, 32 and others. I think from ashes, or from an organization that was bring back as a unified organization by the previous leadership. Sean McLean did a hell of a job trying to keep everybody on board, and therefore it was time for bringing some juice. And that's what we do for a living since December 21 again.
Perfect. So as a player, could you ever imagine yourself working at this level within football?
Well, there's two kind of answer for that. There's the answer that says of course not, and there's the answer that says yes, but not with IFAF. Maybe with the other leagues in the world. Of course, you, as a player, you don't really. Again, we are young organization, right? We're 40 years old, which is very young on the landscape of sports organization. If you look even the oldest European federation, they're from early 80s, mid 80s. This is on the grand scheme of things with sports that are 100 years old, more history. We are still very young. So imagine a plan where you can see that as an opportunity for a very high level leadership and relationship with the NFL and relationship with the IOC, relationship with major broadcaster, trying to convince them that we have something to progress on, is not something that you naturally see as a player. Because as a player, you see your locker room, you see your practice 4 times a week, you see your gym, you see your coach, you see your coordinator, you see your position coach, your teammates, and you think that, yeah, I think it's normal. If I go to play, if I'm from Amiens Spartans and I go to play Barcelona Drax, or I go to play Copenhagen Towers or whatever, it seems normal as a player when you're 20 years old. So of course you don't really see that coming all together. When you move on, having the chance to be a part of something truly special as a community and being involved in this is fantastic. Of course you cannot. This is not something that you expect. You cannot expect this, so you have to stay, of course, passionate, ambitious, but very humble. It's a chance to serve. Pressure is privilege, and all did come together. It's like, we're a great football team. You need some offensive linemen, you need some quarterback, you need some wide receiver, you need all of this to make it work.
Yeah, and I guess you really do. That passion really comes from having that player's perspective, because not only have you played in the contact or the tackle game, but actually you have also played flag as well. Which I did. The IFAF agenda. I did play flag when I was a kid, of course, because where I come from, again, Châteauroux, I was probably one of the youngest kind of licensed player for Châteauroux for sure, but also for the FFFA. For my first license, I'm 6 years old. So there's probably not many that are this younger. So yes, we played flag because there was no tackle youth team where I came from. So it was naturally easier to play with the younger teenager back in the days, but still in flag. So I did play a little bit, but nothing, of course, nothing compared to the exceptional performance we have on field at the moment at the international level, right? Yeah.
I'm a big guy. It's not easy to move with the agility that those amazing athletes are producing.
Yeah, me and Gav both played flag as well. And you talk about being a big guy. Gav is 6'6", so you can imagine what he's like trying to play flag football.
Yeah, for sure.
And the basketball advantage comes into play. I think, again, from the time that we started to where we're at now, I've got teammates, former teammates who are British champions or have been in the GB setup, but I could die, I think, trying to keep up with this.
It's let's be honest, it's impossible right now. Those guys are so fast, they are so agile, they are so, men and women. Like, I believe that, international tackle football player now in certain position, of course, transition to flag is not something that is own. Yeah, they have to compete. It's a very, very high skill level. Like when you was the best highlight for some of our best player, going full speed for 3 yards and then dipping on their knee and bam, bam, moving up, getting a gearing karaoke move, and then like I have the feeling I say that every time, but every single competition we watched the last few years, and I'm sure it's going to be the case after Düsseldorf, you're like, this game is going so fast on the field. It's like it's a highlight machine. It's a highlight machine. That's fantastic.
Let's bring ourselves a wee bit closer to the present. And Pierre, let's maybe look at the last year. So in 2025, it was a very successful year for IFAF and football in general. Looking back on 2025, what stands out the most for you?
Well, like many times, we have some amazing milestone in 25. did not run without it. I think the Continental Series have been impressive, and one that I'm truly proud on behalf of those that actually make it happen is the African Championship.
Yeah.
It is the first time ever. Like, I remember a couple of years ago saying that Africa was our last frontier. Somehow it's been a long time. There is some initiatives in Africa. We should acknowledge that Egypt was one of them, Morocco or Tunisia. Like, this is not the first time we play, football, tackle or flag in Africa, but the first time that IFAF had an organized competition, and all the participants, and I've refrained from Egypt, have been fantastic hosts, working to make it happen. And, the first one is never easy, right? If you remember that for us, kind of European, it's something that seems natural, right? We have a European Championship every now and then, and every 2 years a world or whatever. And just, this is, for Oceania, Africa, and so on. This is a milestone that will make history forever, right? And for them to be a part of that was exceptional. I think the numbers as well. We had about 101 national team present, record-breaking number. If you just look at the ranking about 2 years ago, if you recall the first series, the series that we had before in 2023, right? We had the first one in Asia, Oceania, the first one in America, and so on. But it's a 48% world rank team increase in just 2 years, right? And I think if you look at a more global event, the World Games were also a major success, and obviously the performance of Team USA and Team Mexico, the arrival of Team China, the now new challenger Team Canada is on the mix as well, and obviously the European champions with Team GB, right? No, I was just all in all, also the World Games. When you look at all of this, among the 60 discipline, it's a huge event, right? Flag football ranked number 1.
Yeah,
20% of the total watch time from the World Games are just linked to Flag Football Women's Championship, and I think it's mind-blowing about that in 25. And then, of course, we can talk about development. We can talk about tackle. The numbers of game in tackle football increase everywhere. First, Central America Championship, European Championship being stable. Oceania are back on playing Australia, New Zealand in tackle football. Like, all of those numbers are here as well, and we should not put that under the carpet. And grassroots, Germany, Brazil. I talk about China. China is 1 million player per year. Right, new player per year. It's mind blowing. The US, now we have the NCA recognition. We cannot get used just in half an hour to talk about all of the success in 2025, which create other problems. We still have to make, my ambition is always to 1% better every day, right? If I talk to the athletes parts, okay, we still have to make percentage better in 26 and then 27 and so on and so on.
Yeah. So what we'll do, as you mentioned, Pierre, there is so many things. So what we'll do is we'll pick a couple of key points to focus on in 2025. So you mentioned the World Games. How important was that to showcase flag football to the world?
Well, it's of course it's the number one priority. We have a very special relationship with the IGWA, and we were lucky. We had tackle football. I was lucky to be a part of one event, not playing, but I was involved in the Poland tackle last one we had. France won, so it was great. But no, it's important. This is, we are part of the World Games, and our whole adventure story started in Birmingham in 2022. And there was the first time we were on the global stage. It was a fantastic event. And moving on to Chengdu was also the first kind of flag football competition we had in China as well. A fantastic opportunity, a great relationship with the CRFA, the local organizing committee. So our commitment to be a part of that was definitely unquestioned. The World Game is somehow what is the closest from the Olympic style environment, right? It's multi-games. You have multiple games a day. You have all of this. It's obviously the closest we have. It's a stepping stone, which we did. But in order to obviously stay ambitious and nimble, the next edition will be in Karlsruhe. So if the LOC from Karlsruhe, want us to join, we will definitely answer the call and then make our best to be here.
Watching the World Games from afar, it did look very well organised, and we felt that the production of the sport was excellent for those watching. It's a topic that we discuss a lot on this podcast, is that to attract new viewers to this sport, you need to have that high level of production for people to watch. Is that something that IFAF puts a particular focus on? Well,
if you guys have a look at the World Championship in Finland in 2024, we have a very important setup, like linear TV broadcast, international distribution. We are now entering a new phase where that now we have that proof of what we can achieve, and now we will look at global distribution deal. Hopefully, it will arrive soon. There's some good some good feeling about it. So we will definitely look forward to this. But I think if you look at flag football per se, I think the broadcast is set in two elements. You have the group phase, the highlights, the user-generated content, and then you have the final day. And tournament style, generally speaking, is not something that is easy to put on a distribution TV set because it's long, it's multiple days a day. So all of that needs to be worked on. This is what we are doing. This is what we already have progressed a lot, and we have already also a transfers of knowledge. Obviously, working very closely with the NFL, but also working with the Olympic Broadcast Service and all of the international distribution that will be at the Olympics, like NBC and others. We definitely going to progress in that area. But if you look immediately at the World Championship, obviously all of our partners will be very excited to see what we can produce for the final day. We can distribute, and I hope next time we chat, we will be in a position to chat about the distribution deal.
I think it's definitely something that'd be really exciting to see. I think you're right. There's different levels of consumer that you want to get. So there's the people who are already immersed in the sport, whether that's flag or contact, and having that ability, as we've had at the Continentals, but as you mentioned in Finland at the World Championships in 24, being able to watch every single field, every country, every game, even just to see a score, it's not necessarily about the commentary. Being able to follow and understand what's happening makes a big difference. Then at the elite end of the medal games, to try and draw that wider audience and say that this is a World Championship game, people should be excited about this.
Yeah, and you look at the European Championship. Obviously, I'm sure you guys look, but we had great setup, drones and cam and replay and commentators. When you look at the World Games, for example, we had Kate coming from, which is a sport journalist that we had already with us for a little while, coming in Chengdu. We hired some more and more voice of flags, and yes, it's for sure because when you also look at targets, obviously South America, Latin America, Spanish market, we're going to be in Germany. We're going to need a German broadcast. We're going to get an English broadcast. All of this is being looked at the moment. But of course, the minimum standard now is European Championship 2025 in terms of broadcast. In the best of the world, we look at what we did in Finland. I think, top of my head, it was a bit too much. Something around 13 camera. It was really gunned very high. But this is an interesting question from a business perspective. The group phase, the playoffs, the final, all of that comes into a different setup. Because when you look at the World Games, we had 16 tournaments. The World Championship is going to be a 32 teams tournament. So you mean more field, you mean more coverage, more games. So all of that needs to be looking at. And therefore, yes, you guys are part of the community. You want to watch the game. You want to watch the game of your team, other teams, and so on. But if we when we go to the global stage, you want to see you want to see highlights, you want to see that. And all of this is the promise of flag, right? It's fun, it's fast, it's creative, it's a highlight machine, it's easy to consume. You scroll, you zap, you watch, you click, you get to the stat. Like all of that environment it's very exciting because it's being built at the moment, and we try to fulfill that appetite worldwide.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned yourself there, Pierre, earlier on about we had the continental tournaments in 2025 as well, and obviously you mentioned the first one in Africa. How important was it for IFAF to grow into another continent for the growth of the sport?
Or to another continent, yes, it's very important. We are global sport. We're global sport because we are being played in all the continent, and it doesn't matter if you are a little boy or a little girl, if you are in Oklahoma, US, if you are in Burgundy, France, or if you are in Accra, in Ghana. Like we're going to have another clinic in Ghana coming up, for example, very soon, I believe somewhere in March. So it was important for me, as we need to play everywhere. I believe strongly that football for all is something that matters. And we can't be missing one country or one continent and so on and so on. So Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, American Samoa, Papua New Guinea, and others trying to get into IFAF recognition. Same for Africa, Tunisia, Morocco, Nigeria. There's about 12 to 15,000 kids playing flag football in school in Nigeria, for example.
Crazy.
It's crazy. You have I think 2 division men, 2 division women of flag football, national division in Egypt. Right? So our sports, that football is universal. You can play the game everywhere now. That's what we did in 2025.
Exactly. And what we always say about the sport, flag football is a sport that anyone can play as well. You don't have to be the fittest, you don't have to be the most athletic person to play flag football. There's a position for everyone in flag football, and that's one of the things I love about the sport, is that it doesn't matter, like you said, all those little boys and girls across the world, they don't have to be the most athletic person to play this sport. Yeah.
It's football for all. Like I'm very pleased to now have a kids team in in the town I am right now in Klagenfurt, Austria, and the parents are playing, and the elite athletes tackle football are playing flag off season, mid season. Like, it's football for all, and everybody can. It doesn't matter what your goal is. If you're here for motricity, development, camaraderie, friendship. But if you're also here for the high level, for the Olympic, for having that Olympic dream, like it's just a land of opportunity. Flag football is football for all.
I guess, Pierre, maybe one question I can just ask you, because you've touched on, I guess, strands of how you grow the game. So obviously there's the number of emerging nations, there's so many that have entered into the first tournaments. And this year, of course, Africa, it's a brand new continental, but in Europe, we've seen the likes of Portugal and Netherlands, amongst others, have fielded teams for the first time. So there's the growth, but also at the same time, the top tournaments, the World Championship has reduced this field of 16.
Yes.
The World Games, of course, is at the field of 8, which was, I guess, just incredible quality in terms of the standards of competition. How do you see the challenges of balancing growth against the competitive side of the product in future years?
Well, if you look at national team perspective, right? The World Championship is not a development place; it's competitive place, right? You want to be the world champions. Like, how many of us have the opportunity one day to be a world champion? This is unbelievable. We had the Continentals, that is still an open championship. As you just mentioned, the championship is now a cap competition to the top 16 in the world. But it also allows us every 2 years, when it's a world championship year, to open an entire new landscape of regional series. With different standards that are here for development, where a nation could actually build competition, build rivalry, work on also on their budgeting plans, and so on and so on. So the fact that if you take somehow of a pyramid, you cap the World Championship. Last year, we had a record-breaking, I told you, 101 national team in continent, right? So we're not going to cap the continent. But if you open a new level, regional series, when the first one is capped, then you also open a new developmental series. But we talk about, obviously, this is national team program, right? Grassroots and mass participation is definitely something else that is managed mostly by our partners and members, and IFAF being supported by IFAF when you talk about education, when you talk about resources and referee and stuff like this. But it's two different things.
Yeah. So you mentioned up here that flag football has grown like at a crazy rate over the last few years. You mentioned from 6 years ago to now it is crazy, 101 European teams. What do you think the key reasons for the growth of flag football have been?
Well, multiple elements. Obviously, the inspiration of the Olympic is something mind-blowing, because just, let's get a bit younger. All of us, all three of us, back in my 6 years old shoes. If someone tells you that you want to be obviously an NFL athlete, you want to be an Olympic athlete, like it's very obviously complicated in a way that you have to be the best of the best. But the hope is here. Talent is everywhere, opportunity is not. So with the Olympic, we just open a new opportunity about those kids' dream, and the fact that it's the cost. You play 5. We're 3 here. We miss 2 friends, and we are a team. And this team can travel everywhere to play. So the fact that you need a smaller field, that you can play everywhere, the fact that you don't need infrastructure, no helmet, no shoulder pads, the way it's easy to understand. That's what I told everybody, even though I know we are definitely a fan, so we know a bit more about the rules. But it's fall down to the middle, fall down to score. It's 5-on-5. It's played 20 minutes. I give you half the rules. It took me 30 seconds. Yeah. Everybody can understand it. You find a football, you get your sneakers up and running, or your cleats if you want to play on a grass field. And you just, a kid, technically 2 kids in the garden throwing the ball after watching NFL playoff, thinking they are Lamar Jackson and they want to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill or whatever. They can do it with a belt and they play flag. It's exactly the same. So the inspiration of it, the power of the model is very strong. The infrastructure and many reasons that makes this flag football development such a worldwide juggernaut. 20 million players in 100 countries.
You obviously mentioned, and Gab mentioned, a few countries in the last couple of years that have fielded their first ever teams at the international level. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. Which countries do you think we should be looking out for in the next couple of years that are going to take that next step up to that kind of elite level, do you think?
Well, if you talk about development on a national team level, without going over of your question, but you can't have growth if you definitely have competition. So the fact that there's more and more growing team means that there's more and more big team and champions. So you cannot really isolate one program. And if you start to see something that's very fun is that each part of the world play with a bit of a different style. Somehow the Latin American style, the European possession style, the Athletic American style. Like it's very fun to watch because all of this comes together at the World Championship. 1 quarterback, 2 quarterback, long pass, short pass, yard after catch, like all of that comes together, it's very different. So I would put it more in a competitiveness matters. Like I don't have that on top of my head. We could obviously ask our sport manager to do this, but the competitiveness of the game, like how close the scores comes, generally speaking, between nations. I've never been so close than in 2025. It doesn't matter where you are in the World Championship will be a very, very close event. And I mean, look at Switzerland being on the podium in 2024, China being outstanding performance, the champions in the UK, the champions in Panama with the US, the champions in Australia grew up by 8 spot on the world ranking on the men's side. Like, so you cannot really isolate a program. You have to see it from the biggest perspective and from the competitiveness of everyone.
Okay, I'll let you away with that. We'll go with the diplomatic answer. If we switch over to tackle for a second, then so in 2025, what do you think the key successes for IFAF were in tackle?
Well, in tackle football, as I said, the regionality of it is the key, and we have stable, growing European tackle championship, but also in U19, which is, I think, a focus as well. We need to refocus as well on the U19, which is, I believe, rebuilding the attractivity of tackle football. But this regional focus bring us to the first ever Central American Championship last year, bring us to the coming back of the Oceanian rivalry with Oceania and New Zealand. So when you look at the individual games, 2025, it's the year where we had record numbers of tackle football game worldwide. So tackle football has a different dynamic in terms of obviously the cost and the numbers. We need to own that somehow. It's a less for everyone kind of sports. It requests a lot of commitments. There's incredible athletes as well. Yeah, I remember I was going to practice 4 or 5 times a week and going to the gym, going to the scouting and so on. When you have to manage that with student life and family and so on, it's a bit more difficult. The universality, I'm not talking about the high level, right? I'm talking about sports for everybody is less common. But the good thing is that you should not take each of them as 2 separate things. Ultimately, it's football. There's no tackle, but there's a first down, there's a touchdown, there's a Hail Mary pass, there's even a sack. The more the grassroots base of flag football will keep exploding, mathematically tackle football will find a new energy, and this is what we are looking for.
So there was meant to be the men's world championships in tackling, and it's been rescheduled a couple of times. It was meant to be 2025 and it didn't happen again. Can you talk us through the challenges of organising that size of a tournament in tackle compared to flag?
Yeah, and yes, I think we are not ready anymore for a global tournament style tackle football perspective for many reasons that I already spoke about, but they are mostly cost and commitment and the numbers of players. If you want to play a tournament style, I remember being a part of the team that went to the World Championship 2011, which was the last worldwide global stage, super well organized in Austria. In Vienna and Graz and Innsbruck for World Championship. It took 2 years for the IFBO to work on it, and we had a roster size. We were there for 2 weeks. We had a roster size of 53 guys, and obviously everybody taking 2 weeks of holiday that you don't get with your family, and plus camp, plus on. So, I think the structure by the mechanic structure of tackle football makes it complicated for a tournament global style. So, yeah, we kind of let that. I was a part of the French Federation too. We kind of let that. Like, how do we finance this? How do we find the time to prepare it, and so on and so on? So we need to refocus on the regional activity for transports reason. Obviously, it's more expensive to fly in 2025 than it was in 2019. I would say 2020, but 2020 we're all at home. So 2019 and before. So the hotel cost and so on. So the volume will bring us back, but we have to be realistic and honest. The current cost structure of organizing a global tournament style tackle football is very, very challenging. And do I regret that? Completely. Again, I'm a player. I love that. I love the locker room. I love the experience of going to play with the guys in the country together. I love that. This is what I miss the most in not playing. But we have to be honest, and we have to strategically think about how we reset that in a sustainable way, the long-term thinking. And therefore, the juggernaut growth of flag football will create definitely more tackle football players as well. It's mathematic, men and women. And therefore, if we rebuild to regional capacity, we are on a solid basis. That's also I think the foundation of this. need to be not redefined, because it will be a word for nothing. It exists. It has to be solidified, if that makes sense.
I suppose player welfare must be a big concern in tackle games as well, because if you look at maybe a comparable sport in rugby, the Rugby World Cup with 20 teams takes about 6 weeks to complete, because usually you'll have a week between games, maybe sometimes.
Of course.
Whereas obviously with the Flag World Championships, you can complete a 32-team tournament in 4 days.
And I'm going. You ask a simple question: is tackle football a tournament sport? Tackle football is a league sport.
Yeah.
Because you can't. And I know our parents or others might have done it differently, but you cannot play a tackle football game every day. You cannot play Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we go home. As a player, I would have some difficulty to accept that, because I would not trust my own capacity to do it, and the medical capacity of recovery, and so on and so on. So it means that you need, every study shows that you need those recovery time. That's what rugby is doing, as you said. So Rugby World Cup, they are somewhere for 2 or 3 months, but they filled up stadium. There's 80,000 people in the stadium. They probably have about 80% of those paid ticket. They have major TV broadcast deal. And because they had the time to build on it, they had the structure to build on it. When you look at the Six Nations, it's a regional league. Good comparison.
Yeah. So with all that in mind, Pierre, what is IFAF's aims and objectives for TACON 2026?
So we will have very soon. We will have the announcement for the grouping for the European Tackle Championship, the European Youth Championship, the European Women's Championship. We have a project of having the second edition of a Central American tournament. So the numbers are here. Like we still 1% better every day. This is the stable growth. So we're still going to have more and more game to be played. And of course, we welcome global initiatives. There was some also overseas game this year that have proven fantastic show on broadcast, on streaming, and so on. So it's great for the initiatives. But we are, if I take a football perspective, we need to think about that as an inside zone. It's to develop. Throwing away an All Mary or a deep pass, we don't know what cover we're going to have in front of us. We don't know what the economy and so on, could be some risk. So we are in a trench. We are in a running game, and that running game is not spectacular, but it moves the ball until we score again at the global level.
Excellent, love that. For flag in terms of 2026, you mentioned this already, Pierre. We've had the announcement that the NCAA has made flag football an emerging sport for women. It's added it to their programme. And for those that are listening and watching that don't understand what that is, I'm just going to read a quote from the NCAA. Here's: the Emerging Sports for Women programme is intended to help schools provide more athletic opportunities for women and more sports sponsorship options for school, while helping that sport achieve NCAA championship status. How much of a game changer do you think this could be for the sport?
I mean, first of all, we have to acknowledge the fantastic job that have been done by USA Football and the NCAA and the NFL and every partners involved. How cool is that? Let's reflect on this a moment. I've seen some, obviously, AI posts going on where tiny, teenagers and so on, they were just broadcasting themselves on Instagram with Michigan Wolverine jersey, or I know Nebraska has actually a program.
Yeah.
So let's just reflect a moment on how cool it is. And now if we think pragmatically on the opportunity of now having a fully supported growth program to the NCAA high level and scholarship opportunity and everything that actually comes with it, it's fantastic. And it's in the US, and that will have definitely some consequences as well for, Mexico, Canada, Europe, Chile, Brazil, like you name it. But what a fantastic opportunity. And so we had the Olympic dream, but now you also have like, hey, little girl waking up and I don't know, wherever it is in Florida or in Nebraska, whatever, is, hey, mom, I think I'm going to be an Olympian. Well, great. That's awesome. But you need to do your study first. Well, guess what? We're going to have a scholarship in the top 5 powerhouse. Let's go. Boom. Mind blowing.
Yeah, it's good. You mentioned Nebraska made that offer to McKenna Cook to go and play at the varsity level at flag football. It is unbelievable. We've spoken to Olivia Manfrey from Australia, who went out to play flag football. She moved from Australia to America to play the game. We've got a young girl in Scotland, Lee McKendrick. She's had offers to go and play the sport in the US as well. Do you think this will give more opportunities to international players to go and gain these scholarships to play the sport in the USA?
Why not? It has to be. It has to be more opportunity. And we had also some discussion with university system in Europe. There's a youth college league in Japan as well. And so this is just a matter of inspiration and try to scale that model down to other places that might have those opportunities. But yes, I was unfortunate to be a part of those guys that could play a few years of their life in college in the US, but it's a matter of achievement. You go there and again, you get a scholarship and you become more performant and you can focus on your study and you can focus on being a high level athlete. And then you play for your national team, you play in the Olympics, you play in the World Championship. Maybe you play in a pro league at some point. It's a fantastic ecosystem. Like, again, if we reflect how lucky we are to witness this ecosystem to emerge organically, almost. There's a lot of people working for that, but emerge in front of us. Like, if you look at, I think the process is, I think more or less 10 years somehow was achieved in half. Like, we should not, again, back into the whole story, we should not take that for granted. What is happening for the community, by the hard work of IFAF member nation, and referees and coaches and player commitment and everything like this, it is almost unseen in the world of sport.
Yeah, it's phenomenal to see. Is it a sport that we talk about it? We grew up playing this sport on public parks. Like you said, you would just get 5 people together. That was your team. You would just find a bit of grass. You'd play this sport. And to now see that sport that I played, without giving my age away, about 20 years ago, now going to this elite level, it's crazy to watch the development. As if you think back to 6-year-old Pierre playing this sport, you could never have imagined the growth in that period of time, could you have?
No, and to your point, I'm not the youngest anymore, and I'm still very young in the grand scheme of the Olympic movement. But yeah, this is something that I wasn't expecting to witness, and I'm very humble and lucky to serve. And that gives you juice. That gives you juice every day.
Yeah, it does. If we look forward a bit to later in 2026, we mentioned they've got the World Championships coming around in Dusseldorf. It does just feel like a minute ago that we were in Lahti, Finland for the last one. How excited are you for this year's games?
I am definitely very excited. I think, obviously as a fan of the game, but also, going to the Olympic story, and obviously a lot of things are yet to come, but the World Championship is somehow a part of that big stories. And being the world champions is something that translates in the eyes of the athletes. And for me, that's obviously you were very proud to be continental champions, but you want to match with Canada, you want to match with UK, you want to match with Japan, you want to match with powerhouse worldwide. You're the best of your continent, but that as a champions, it grew appetite to compete against the better. So, we know Germany has some sort of underperformance at the European Championship, so they will be, they would want a revenge. Every team is basically a medal contender almost. It's insane.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys will be very surprised. I've watched the competition in Africa, and Nigeria is a very competitive team, and we have the global rise of China, Japan, that is an institution, Australia making the biggest jump at the ranking, the defending world champions. Yeah, you can't beat against the champion's heart, right? So they will be on field answering. So just what's going to happen, it's funny, I have chills talking about, but when will happen to the field of play will be fascinating. And then the excitement comes also about the event per se. How the people from Düsseldorf, we expect a lot of people coming in. We have 6,000 people in Paris, so we expect to be on those things and the energy. You know what? If you will be in Düsseldorf, I hope you had the chance maybe to come before, but the energy of a flag football tournament, it's 0 to 100 kilometer speed from day one, first snap until the end. Like even as a spectator at the end of championship, you're exhausted. You're like, that was awesome. Too many highlights, too many stories, too many athletes to watch. The event per se in football country, Germany, great city of Düsseldorf. They already have host a major event, European, worldwide. So a lot of expectation on that area. I think I'm in this lucky place to give away the trophy and so on. But being in the capacity to, hey, congratulations, go home. You are the world champions. That's fantastic.
Pierre, I'm just wondering maybe if you could talk for a moment about the selection of Dusseldorf specifically, because if you think about the history, Germany has had a big US Air Force presence with Ramstein Air Base, and that's then fed into teams like Rheinfire, which in various different guises has been there for 30 years, first of all NFL Europe, and more recently the LF. And then, of course, now we have the investment from the New England Patriots actually putting a dedicated flag football field, I think, just next door to the site of the World Championship. So it's a fantastic city with a big passion for the game.
Yes, I mean, Germany is probably one of the top 1, top 2, top 3 biggest football fan base in the world. It's definitely the biggest federation in Europe in terms of participation globally, tackle and flag. Düsseldorf has a special space, as you say. It's the biggest base and then some historical team. So we expect a very positive answer from the fan. the event per se, the star power of our friends at the NFL that will help us to grow the event in terms of ticketing, event presentation, broadcast, and all that. So we'll definitely grow a lot of expectation. The Patriots have made an investment in Düsseldorf, but also there's many teams that actually have a international home market from the NFL in Germany. So we have the full support of the NFL and the league to bring the fan and to use all of those networks to make a lot of activation around. And it's easy to access as well. Obviously, train or plane or car or whatever. This is an easy place to join. So you guys will be more than welcome to come. Definitely.
We're definitely looking forward to it. You mentioned there on, Pierre, obviously in the World Championships now, there's 16 best teams in the world. That's kind of where it's capped at the moment. I'm going to steal a quote here from the GB women's head coach, Jack Reed. He wants GB to disrupt the world order of flag football. That's what he's said. We know that USA, Mexico, they are the powerhouses in this sport. What do you think any other team would have to do to kind of break that hold that those two countries have got at the top of this sport?
Well, I'm nowhere close to have the skill of Jack and the other coach to tell what the team to do. So I could definitely teach you how to do a reach block or how to look for a tech-free angle or those things like this, right? My own skill on flag is a bit technically and high speed and so on is a bit limited, as I said. But I think the pathway taken by BAFA and not just on the team, but on the the leadership and the federation. I know that Nicole will have different professional engagement and personal engagement. So we're going to have a new chair coming up. But you have to salute and respect the job that is being done here. Chad is doing a fantastic job on running that organization with the entire board, and everybody's very dedicated. I think that's a game changer for BAFA in the grand scheme, right? Not just for the women's flag, but what they do with school and what they do with the national team men and women and so on. It's a very well-run organization for sure. We also have very strong investment coming from a Olympic perspective, a national governing perspective, very important, which will help also the development. So I think that somehow all of the set for all the tools for Jack and the other guys on the team are here, and I'm sure the players are very committed. There's absolutely fantastic talents in the team, and of course, people will in the entire region will follow on socials, and we just launched our brand today with IFAF World Flag and new branding and so on. So tune in, and yeah, Jack, it's on you.
I think it is being a really exciting tour because actually, in credit to some of the other nations, and you mentioned a couple of them before, Pierre, on the men's side, Switzerland has already kind of broken that US-Mexico pairing. Likewise, Austria, of course, silver medal in Finland in the men's tournament in 2024. Then on the women's side, actually, at the Continentals, we've seen Canada record a win over Mexico in the group play. Similarly, in Europe, Austria, silver medalists in the Continentals, but they took the US to the limit in the World Games. So I guess it's that idea of, any given Sunday or any given day that the fixtures are played on.
Competitiveness.
And that's, I think, what we want to see, because I think you will get some followers of the sport who maybe want to see a changing of the guard. So it's not America or even Mexico winning all these things. But to me, it's just we want to see competition, not a coronation. And I think that there's so many programs moving in that direction that they can challenge the established programs.
That's somehow the magic of being an Olympic sports right now. And that's what the rings brings us as a community, is that you become an Olympic sports, and therefore a lot of countries can actually fight for a medal. And as a sport, as a team sport, coming home with an Olympic medal means something for you, for sure, for your team, for your federation, but for your country. For your fellow citizen, this is something very important at the global stage, and therefore, if you talk about Austria, for example, a potential medal in LA would mean the first time ever a team medal in the Olympic Summer Games, right? So that's meaningful. It's like we have our own history as a community, but there's also the history of the sports in your country. So that's what this team with the NFL, the IOC, and IFAF brings into one of the value. There's many of them, but one of the value is being an Olympic sports, bring you access to different kind of funding from different investments, but also from different perspective. Like you come away from practicing once a day to practicing twice a day, and your mental perspective, your recovery perspective, like all of this comes together with additional support. Because I think you have high level sports, then you have professional sports, and from one like us, then you have Olympic sports. It's another height. It's other standards. That's a difference. Being an Olympic athlete is not given to everybody.
So if we kind of take it away from the field for a wee second, Pierre, just to kind of wrap up 2026, what are other aims and objectives that IFAF have as an organisation for 2026?
Well, huge success for Düsseldorf. This is definitely the main goal. But we also have a new federation that comes in IFAF, and they want to build a program. It's not always about the national team; it's about the grassroots, about the development. And we are also we are full gas and activities in starting the delivery from Los Angeles 2028 as well. Already have a few visits on site. So all of that comes together in a somehow in a big work sequence. So Düsseldorf is a huge success at the World Championship is the main goal for 2026. Yeah. There's plenty of others, but this is the target. Like we want to take a step. Like you guys will see it's a new era event. Yeah, we need to prove that. Hopefully we will. We can replay back that sequence. But that's the goal. That's the goal. Like we want to. It is a next level event. This is a new era for flag football world too.
Excellent. We have touched about it. We've talked on the Olympics as we went through this conversation, Pierre. So we'll put a wee bit of more focus on to LA 2028 now. The Olympic journey for American football started a long time ago, originally with contact football and tackle football. IFAF received provisional recognition back in 2013. When you joined IFAF in 2021, where was the Olympic process at that stage when you joined IFAF?
Well, it was an opportunity. It was definitely in the mix, but again, coming from where we came from, and we were a very long-standing provisional recognition federation for all the reasons that you know. So we came with an organization that had no stable finance, that had a unified community again because of the work undertaken by previous leadership, which was very hard. So unified IFAF, no resources, limited vision and project because of the resources. So the key was to find inspiration. And what better than the Olympic ring, and finding the support of the NFL, finding the support from the IOC to achieve this. I think it's definitely a huge consequences. So I would not say, it was in the mix. It wasn't in the mix. I don't want to be like, oh my God, this is not something this is not a one man stuff, right? This is a community dream. This is a community success. So it was in the mix. And when we have seen altogether what we could do for Birmingham and how well we integrate in multi-sport environment with all of the very high standard that it requested, well, let's go. And a very important part of that was to say from day one that LA, our commitment is that LA is not a one and done. And so we are working on how we belong, how we believe, and how we have to prove that we belong in the Olympic movement on the long term.
Yeah. So it was announced in October 2023 that flag football got the ILC recognition. It was going to go to LA 2028. How did you feel knowing that all the hard work that went into the campaign came and paid off?
It's. I mean, obviously, all the pressure that I'm not gonna mask here. I'm a very enthusiastic of the game, and I was a part of that. So of course, the pressure, like just even a few days before, we didn't know that. Even the morning, so we had the IOC session is a multi-day event with many topics at the table, coordination commission report and delivery report. Like it's huge, right? It's the entire. You have all of the international recognized federation. You have all of the IOC members. You have governments and states and so on. It's huge. So we were. It was in Mumbai, in India, and so we had session. And I think day one was the announcement as IFAF as a recognized federation. Again, for where we came from just a few years ago, like the standard that is requested to be in that level is already very impressive. And lucky enough to have a team that really grind very hard to make it happen. And then the next day we had the Olympic announcement. So if you are not a fully recognized IAF, you're not going to the Olympics. So we had that kind of draft day somehow. Day number one, okay, we pass. It's good. So you're like, oh my God, it's amazing. You have 30 minutes to just figure it out. Oh, there's another one coming tomorrow. And then ultimately it was a vote. The LA 28 proposed their programs. This was accepted by the board of the IOC, but they still have the vote. And so on, the vote is proceeding and you are in the room. You have that moment of silence somehow because it's a vote. You cannot be, I mean, my style is always the same. It's ambitious, but humble. And so you cannot come as we're going to win it. No, yes, we come with a good, solid proposition for LA 28 and will potentially bring us beyond and so on. That's our commitment. But it's ultimately it's a vote. So the vote is happening, moment of silence. The announcement is coming in and you have that picture of you as a kid at some point. And you relive that moment and you're like, yeah, it's a fantastic. First of all, you're very proud of everything that the team achieves. And then funny enough, it's not on the moment per se, but it's in the next few days, came back home. And I just walked back to my local field. There was I think a U17 tackle football team or something like that. And I just walk past the fence and I just sit down and watch kids play. And this is not just me, no, just and yeah, I was just like that commitment that you do it for the others, which is what the offensive linemen are doing, right?
That's it. It comes back to your playing days, doesn't it?
You can't get rid of it. It's like DNA. It's deep inside. But this is, you have to be humble for all this, and the mission is to build and to keep building that structure, that organization, to make it healthy and to keep it growing long when everything is over.
Excellent.
This is team success.
Obviously, maybe prior to that, but especially since the announcement, how important has been the relationship with IFAF and the NFL for the development of the sport on the road towards LA?
I mean, and not just for the development of the sports. I think it's a very, very special relationship. We are very lucky to have the trust of the Commissioner Goodall and all of the executive team, but also the trust of 32 professional franchises that happen to be some of the most valuable sports franchise in the world, with the most valuable sports league in the world. And we are the youngest and most humble-sized international federation. So it's like the very big coming with the very small and together forming a team, because you figure it out that we can't do it without each other. And that's also back to a sports background. And you must be the most dominating offensive lineman or the most dominating quarterback in the world. If you don't have the people that block in front of you, or if you don't have the people that can throw the ball, can catch the ball, it doesn't work. It's team sports. So very proud of that, and how we convinced the league that we were the right partner for that we are the only partner for that, and that we would prove that we are capable of achieving big things. Of course, it's mind-blowing, but it's also, this relationship is actually so special that it served us well on how professional leagues and international federation can interact. And that translates to a very fantastic moment when I remember that quote from the commissioner, who were actually in the room, but he was like, for the release of the professional players, we had 32 votes. And we have 32 votes in favor. And Roger said, trust me, it doesn't happen so often. So it's a testament of the commitment, the league executive, but also the owners, IFAF and IFAF communities. It's a together business.
Yeah. Now we come to the big question, Pierre. This is a question that we know everyone around the world wants to know, so we have to ask you: how close are we to finding out what the qualification process is for the LA 2028?
So of course, there's a lot of conversation on that. So we're still in the process. Definitely, we have to talk about integrity. We have to talk about equal opportunity per continent. Like, we're very close, right? Every day is close to come. What I can tell you is that we're going to have the best team in the world. We need an fair opportunity for everybody, and ultimately we will have the best teams and the best player in the world in the 28 for a mind-blowing moment at the exhibition park. You mentioned Friday Night Lights. We have primetime schedule. We have primetime stadium. We are in the heart of the game. We have the full power of the NFL for promotion and NBC for broadcast, and so on and so on. So our job is to ensure that everybody has the same chance to go, but then it's a football game.
Yeah.
So you basically have to score.
Without giving anything away that's going to compromise any decisions, but what sort of factors have you had to consider when determining this process?
Well, the competitiveness, and as I said, the equal opportunity for the continent. We need a multiple sequence qualification. So it's going to be it's ongoing process. Again, nothing much more to be able to give you guys, but we need to. Yeah, we are very close to it. Obviously, there's a process to define. It's a balance between the local organizing committee, which is 28, between the IOC and the International Federation, which is us, which govern the sport. And all of those parties answer to, obviously, when you talk about the IOC, they answer to Olympic committee and national Olympic committees, right? The Olympic game is a competition of national Olympic committees. So all of that comes together in some sort of shuttle that needs to answer some integrity rules, some equal opportunity for everybody. It's basically for all continents. And then you have to find a way to get the best team in the world, but not in just one, but in multiple competitions. So yeah. I think, of course, the decision is upcoming. That's for sure. The IOC is highly involved, and we will go from there for sure. We expect the decision to come up very soon.
You've mentioned about keeping this legacy going of the Olympic programme, Pierre. Have we had any kind of early conversations with Brisbane about moving towards 2032?
I think, of course, our commitment is, as I said before, we want to prove that we can stay in the Olympic programme on the long run. So the shared commitment we have with our friends at the NFL is trying to make flag football a sport within the Olympic movement on the long run. LA is the beginning. and LA is not the peak, because after the peak you only go down, something like that. So LA is the beginning, and therefore there's plenty of opportunity that comes after that in the next 4, 6, 7, and later. The commitment for us is definitely to go on to the Olympic program in the long run, 38 and 32 and beyond.
Perfect. That's what we want to see it as a long-term thing, because we all love the sport and we want to see it to continue to grow and being an Olympic sport going forward. It is ultimately the goal for everybody. So we hope that is the case.
No, I was just maybe going to offer in that as well. I guess we're seeing a few different initiatives that are maybe separate in terms of motivations to IFAF, but it all kind of ties here. The USA flag has been doing a lot of work with Football Australia, and similarly, of course, the NFL.
USA Football, you mean USA Football?
It's not USA Football. USA Football, just to use the correct name. Football, we're working with Football Australia to develop their program. And similarly, the NFL is actually hosting their first international series game in Melbourne later this year. Now, of course, that's part of a broader growth of the sport, but we are seeing these different bodies helping to support the game in Australia.
And we see it's a fantastic opportunity for USA Football. It's a fantastic opportunity for American Football Australia that is doing a fantastic job. Obviously, it's a team that gained the most points at the ranking this year. So this is just a proof of concept somehow. And I'm happy to see those initiatives multiplying. Germany and Mexico are getting very close. France, of course, and Great Britain are getting very close as well. So those initiatives, which is, we grow together and we compete against each other.
Excellent. In a previous podcast that you done, Pierre, you had mentioned that you had a goal of having 100 national associations within IFAF. We're in the mid-70s at the moment. How close do you feel we're getting to achieving that goal of the 100?
We are progressing. Congress accepted this year 5 new members with Egypt and others. So I think we will get close, or even maybe getting beyond that. But this is the vision. This is the goal. Again, it's saying that you will win the game is easy when you are in the locker room, and then you need to work hard for it. But this is the goal. This is definitely the goal. We want to be a fast-growing organization, also on the governance part.
Yeah, we obviously touched on at the start that IFAF is the governing body for international American football across the world. Do you ever see there being a situation where we see continental kind of club competitions being run by IFAF? For example, there's the Champions Bowl in Europe, for example, where all the European domestic champions go and play in a tournament which is privately organised. Do you think that's something IFAF might look into in the future?
There's plenty of opportunities, and the more players, the more games, the more it's a land of opportunity. And the fast growth of the game, the juggernaut of the grassroots will bring that even more. So we are looking at club competition, definitely. Therefore, we need to focus on the immediate target. It's the World Championship in Düsseldorf. So this is something that will come up on the table probably in the second half of 2026. I know the board is working on it, thinking about it. We have a continental committee as well coming this year. So this is a work in progress. This is on the radar. Yes, but we need to be smart on how we affect resources and brain juice somehow. So the immediate focus is delivering a great event as great as possible in Düsseldorf. Second half of 26, we'll talk about this club competition.
Perfect. And before we wrap up here, I have one final question for you. In the future, when you look back at your time at IFAF, whenever your presidency is over, what would you like your legacy to be at IFAF?
Well, that's it's I'm saying that often, and I think this is not just I believe in that. Legacy is not something that you chase. This is somehow consequences of the job that has been done before, and somehow raised or happen to be your legacy. Again, we don't know when this is over. The immediate focus is to maintain sports in the program and to definitely deliver a great World Championship. We will have time to think about that in 28, a little bit before. And of course, bringing IFAF and our community to the Olympic stage is definitely a big milestone. But this is very important to say. This is not a one-man job. We have tremendous people on board that sweat so much into making things happen. It looked easy. I don't think it actually looked like easy from the outside, but it's a really team effort. And yes, as the president and serving and coordinating and impulsing the energy. And I said, for example, we have that score philosophy, right? You have to be supportive. You have to be optimistic and resilient and energetic and so on and so on. So this is what we meant to be. We need to score. And every time we score, we get the ball back in offense and we go for it. Ultimately, we need 100 and more than the opposing team. That's what we're doing. Legacy is not something you chase per se. I think you need to have clarity on why you're doing it, and there the how and the what will come up, and we can start to talk about that in 2028 in the second part of 2028 when the Olympics are over.
Pierre, I've got one last question myself. So you've obviously mentioned that a big part of the agenda and priorities for this year is flag football, as we've kind of alluded to that topic, and the Olympics in 2028. There's obviously a number of our listeners who may be less familiar with flag football compared to the tackle side of the game. If you could recommend one game that someone should go and watch that's already happened from flag football, is there one game perhaps from 2025 that you would say you have to watch this as an advert for the sport?
That's it. Also, there was a lot of game. I told you more than 100 teams, right? When you play round robin and group and playoff, that's a lot of game. That's more than an NFL season somehow, right? So for plenty of reason, you might want to watch plenty of this game. But if we talk about, the competitiveness, the emotion, the world stage, I mean, you have to look at that World Game final, USA and Mexico, the World Games gold. That last second, I was in the stadium, still again, having chills talking about it, but that last minute, second touchdown and the joy of everybody. And of course, you can, the disappointment, but looking for the future, and it brings a great storytelling. It's the momentum. It's the momentum of a great rivalry, probably the biggest we have in our sports right now. And Vanita Crouch versus Diana Flores and all others. That's our rivalry game, right? That's our great moment. That's our Chicago Bears Green Bay Packers somehow, for example.
You had to get one last reference in there.
One last. You said wrap up. I had to drop it once more, right?
Well, I would love to make the case for the women's Euros final between GB and Austria, but I think it's hard to argue with the World Games finals.
But and again, depend on your perspective. I mean, the final of the African Championship was mind-blowing because it was the first one. But in the grand scheme of things, again, the competitiveness, seriously watch it, close it. Like the route, the catch, the defense, the emotion, the tension, all of that game. It's probably the best game of flag football we ever had so far.
Yeah. It really was the sport played to an absolute elite level. That's what it was. That's the thing. It was elite. This is no longer an amateur sport. This is an elite sport, and that is the perfect advert for that.
This is an Olympic sport.
Yes, exactly.
And to follow the next chapter of that Olympic rivalry, see you on IFAF World Championship socials.
Exactly. Pierre, thank you so much for making the time in your busy schedule to chat to us today. We've absolutely loved having you on in conversation with.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And I must also take time to thank Catherine Inkster at IFAF for making this all possible too. So thank you, Catherine, for helping us organise this. Gav, thank you for joining in the chair today as well. I know this was one you did not want to miss out on.
No, not at all. It's been a great one to be a part of and starting these conversations in 2026.
See you in Düsseldorf.
Exactly. Düsseldorf is just around the corner. We cannot wait for the games to begin. For everyone who's watching and listening around the world, thank you for listening to our latest episode of In Conversation With. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube and all podcast platforms so you don't miss our future conversations. Until next time, we'll see you soon.